to progress to the next question into our quiz brain. However, Xcode gave us an error as soon as we tried to change the question number. The reason was because that Swift structs are immutable. So to recap, here is our struct blueprint, and here when we actually use that struct, that quiz brain, well, this is the actual struct object. So each of these properties, say the question number or the quiz, well, they are associated with that object created from the struct, and they cannot be changed. The only way to safely change it is by destroying the current copy that's created and replacing it with a new version with an updated value. Destroying the quiz brain with the old question number and creating a new quiz brain with an updated question number takes place behind the scenes. Swift will do this for us. The only thing we have to do is to help identify which functions will change a property in the quiz brain and therefore require a new copy to be created. That's why we have to mark our next question method as mutable. So if we click on this suggestion, you can see that it's telling us one of the fixes is to mark this method as mutating to make self, namely the object that's created from this current struct, mutable. So if we click fix, you can see it adds the mutating keyword before the func keyword. And what this tells the computer is that when this function is run, it will require the current copy of the struct to be destroyed and a new one created in its place in order to change the question number property. So every time you create a struct and inside one of the functions or one of its capabilities, you need to be able to update one of the properties, so a var or a changeable property, you have to do that inside a mutating function. So if we run our app right now, you can see that our app works perfectly just as it did before. But in this case, we've shifted all of the quiz logic into a separate structure called the quiz brain. And our controller, or the view controller, now is only responsible for delegating these tasks to the quiz brain. Say, hey quiz brain, give me the next question, or hey quiz brain, check this answer for me, or get me the question text. And the controller is now talking to our model to be able to make the quiz work. And our controller is also talking to our user interface, namely changing the button background colors or updating the UI every time we go to the next question. And the code is now much easier to understand, more reusable and more modular. So we've now implemented the model view controller design pattern to our Quizlet app. To practice coding in this MVC design pattern, we're going to set you a challenge. And the challenge is to make our app be able to keep track of the user's score. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a new label and you're going to drag it to the very top of our vertical stack view. So it gets placed here. And then we're going to modify some of the attributes or properties of this label. And I'm going to change the text color to white to be able to see it against the dark background. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an IB outlet that links from this label to my view controller. So I'm going to create it just about maybe here, and I'll call it score label. Now, finally, we're going to go to our view controller, and under update UI, I'm going to set the score label's text property to equal to say score colon, and then I'm going to use my string interpolation to insert a method to get from my quiz brain. So I'm going to tap into my quiz brain and I'm going to say get score. So here comes the challenge for you. At the moment, there is no such thing as get score in quiz brain. So pause the video and make sure that all of your score tracking and score managing and score keeping functionality happens inside the quiz brain. And if you manage to successfully complete this challenge, This error should of course go away, but also we should be able to see the score start out with 0, and every time we get an answer right, the score will go up by 1. So if we get an answer wrong, nothing changes, but all the correct answers will increase our score. And once we get to the end of our quiz and it resets, well, our score should also using MVC and making sure that this quiz-related functionality lives inside the quiz brain. Pause the video now and try to complete this challenge. All right, so here comes the solution. We know that we can't write any code in our view controller, which is solely responsible for updating the UI and talking to our model. So we have to make our model be able to perform the functionality of keeping track of score and sending it back via this method called getScore. So if we go over to the quiz brain, this is where all of the heavy lifting is going to happen. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable that's going to keep track of the score in a similar way that I'm keeping track of the question number that the user is on. The score is going to start out with a value of 0, but when is it going to get increased? Well, whenever we check the user's answer and it matches the correct answer, well, in that case, not only do we return true and tell our view controller that the user got it right, but we also increase the value of score by 1. Now, we're not going to do anything to punish them when they get it wrong, but we do have to address the issue of the mutating function, because again, we're modifying one of the properties of a struct, which is immutable. So therefore, we have to mark this function as mutating so that we rebuild our structure with a new value for score. Now, the next thing we need to do is to be able to send this score back through the function that the view controller calls, which is called getScore. So I'm going to copy that, and in my quiz brain, just above my get question text, I'm going to create a new function called getScore. And this is going to return the score, which is of course an integer or a whole number. And it's simply going to return the value of our score property, which lives inside our quiz brain. So now the very last thing we need to do with score is to remember to reset it down to 0 when our quiz restarts. So not only do we reset our question number, we also reset our score. And now if I run my app, firstly, my errors should go away because this method now exists. And also I'm now able to keep track of the user's score. When they get a question right, the score goes up. And when they get to the end of the quiz, the score resets. So did you manage to get that right? If you want more practice on using the MVC design pattern to be able to switch out or modify just the quiz brain component and leave everything else as is, we've got an optional challenge for you. And the challenge here is if you go into the README, you can see that in addition to the default quiz, we've also got a section called the multiple choice quiz. So if you were to copy all of these multiple choice questions and replace the questions that's currently inside our quiz array with the multiple choice questions, can you figure out how to modify the code in the app so that you end up with a multiple choice quiz? And if you manage to successfully complete the challenge, then this is what your app will look like. And it's now modified to be able to serve up 3 possible answers, and then the user can select the answer as one from the 3. So there's a number of things that you'll have to modify in the app for this to be able to work. And if you want to tackle this optional challenge, then go ahead and replace the quiz array now. And once you're done, you can compare your answer against my answer by downloading the completed project for the multiple choice quiz, which you'll be able to find, of course, in the course resources. But either way, no matter what you choose, I'll see you on the next module.